Good evening, everybody. It's 6:30. I'll call the meeting to order. Please rise if you're able. Join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, this is the regular trustee meeting for April 21st. If you haven't already, please sign in the book at the back of the room. We got a big crowd in the back of the room tonight, so Chief, I'll turn it over to you to get things started.
So as many of you may or may not know, Chief McKean, Assistant Chief McKean has retired from our department, and he was on a department, 72 years? He's been here for a long time. When I started, well, quick funny story, when I started, they asked Mike if he would quit because they were going to appoint me, and he had no idea that was coming. And so his only thought was, well, can I have a ride home? It's been a fun 3 years with him. We couldn't have gotten to where we are today without his help and his historic knowledge. So we're here to really quickly honor him. We appreciate him actually coming. We thought he may or may not show up. There was an iffy on that as well. So Mike, if you'd come up. Huh?
We can see you.
The one who's really in charge.
Yeah,
That's right.
That's right. I want you to be there. Now you're on
I
camera.
gotta keep you boys.
So we've got a couple of things to present. So of the two people that I'm gonna have present to him, well, Ray's been here as long as Mike, so that's dirt. And then Lieutenant Cade has worked with him a long time too. So I would like to recognize on duty and off duty people that came. And then of course, Chief Fling, who we all wouldn't be here, well, it wasn't for you. So thank you, sir. Right?
On behalf of the fire department, I'd like to award you with this acts of service as Assistant Chief Mike McKean, 39 years of service. Been an honor and a pleasure, sir. Sure has.
Oh man, that's the old one. That's the old one.
So to kind of go off of what the department had presented you, this is something from the firefighters ourselves. For everything you did, like there's many of us who actually known you since fire school. You taught us there, got us started, wouldn't be here, like everyone else said, wouldn't be here without you today. So we wanted to give this to you on behalf of the firefighters and officers. Thank you, sir. We appreciate it.
Big picture.
Yeah, you want to get, come on, everybody, get it. Real quick, sorry. Everybody.
Yeah. Much love it all.
I usually put them in the
Don't have to tear it out. Who's down front?
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And go.
Thank you, guys. I apologize, we're not quite done yet. Somebody would like to speak.
I was gonna say.
We never listened to him when he was here.
Of course he would.
Is he gonna speak now? Yes, apparently.
Yeah, I do. It's been a fantastic career. I've been very blessed. Whether it was Columbus Fire which helped me here at Harlem Township. I'd like to thank Chief Ling, who started me at Harlem Township in 1987. Ray's the only one who still got me beat in seniority. We still laugh about that. But to the original board of trustees, Dave Jackson, Jerry Paul, and Carl Richardson, who gave me the opportunity 3 years ago when I stepped in to try and help the department and really get involved. And then Chief O'Brien, I can't thank you enough for everything you taught me over the last 3 years, the instantaneous friendship that we built. And the friendships and all the people. It said, I had Lieutenant Cade in fire school. Craig I taught with at fire school. There's just a whole lot of people. Chief Dudley's here from Plain. Thank you for coming. It's just really quite an honor. And it's time to take the next step. And I appreciate all the support from Chief O'Brien, all the other friends that I've made on this department throughout the years. Too many to name, but all of you that are here definitely fit into that, and there are many more. And I'll forget names if I try to name everybody. But I've been very blessed, and thank you.
Chief O'Brien, you let me know later how we'll settle the pool on which one of you cries first.
Yeah.
All right. There was some going bets on
What
that.
my portion is. Third box.
Upstairs. You might want them on forward.
Dog is here too.
As the fire department filters out, we'll pick back up on the agenda tonight. We have a few different public comments to be made this evening. Dan, if it's okay, I'll just start with you to keep on with our pattern of Revolutionary War veterans.
Right. Good evening. I'm honored to present Harlem Township's Revolutionary War veteran for the month of April, James Garlinghouse, 1765 to 1850. Private 2nd New Jersey Regiment, Continental Line, wife Eleanor Hunt, 1769 to 1856. James Garlinghouse served as a private in the 2nd New Jersey Regiment of the Continental Line, a regular Army unit commanded by Colonel Israel Shreve and Captain William Helm. Enlisting as a young man from Sussex County, New Jersey, he was part of a regiment distinguished for its extensive service throughout the war, participating in critical engagements such as the Battle of Short Hills, Battle of Mammoth, and the Battle of Springfield. His unit also endured the harsh winter encampments at Valley Forge and Morristown, and marched to Virginia for a decisive siege in Yorktown in 1781. By sustaining the Continental Army's presence throughout these grueling campaigns, Garlinghouse and his regiment played a vital role in wearing down British forces and securing the vital victory for the American independence. Following the war, James and Eleanor participated in the western expansion of the new nation, migrating from New Jersey to the Ohio frontier and settling in Harlem Township, Delaware County by 1850. While specific architectural descriptions of their home have not survived in the public record, they had established a farm called Maple Grove. Within a close-knit community of veterans and pioneers, including the Fancher and Cook families, who were responsible for clearing the dense local forest to create the township's productive agricultural base. James' enduring contribution to the township is his status as one of its revered founding fathers, a legacy memorialized by his burial in Francher Cemetery, along with other Revolutionary War soldiers who helped him transform the Ohio wilderness into a settled community. Thank you for the time.
Are we aware of family members still living?
We are not on this one.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Brett, are you here?
Yes.
Oh, there you are, right in front of me. Brett Bacon, Delaware County Soil and Water, to discuss the ditch petition. Thanks for coming. We were talking about this last month in detail.
You want me to?
Would you mind? Yeah, just mic picks you up.
I do not have a formal presentation. I really just wanted to make myself available if the board had questions on how the ditch petition process works, what your options are. This is a watershed that we did an informational meeting here at the township back in late 2019, maybe early 2020. I believe it was the last one I did before the big shutdown happened. So that's why it stands out in my mind. The drainage that comes out of the township property here, crossing 605 down through the park and then further on downstream is an old county petition tile. Probably, I didn't re-look up the records, but I'm going to guess sometime possibly the late 1910s or the early 1920s that drainage would have originally been put in. There's been no comprehensive maintenance of the system ever since then. So it's like a lot of our rural drainage infrastructure in the county. There's approximately 660 of those old projects, old petition county tiles or county ditches that were done prior to 1957 when drainage maintenance came about, that are in some state of disrepair. They're old, tired, mostly clay infrastructure. That infrastructure has met its life expectancy. It's fallen apart over the last, since 1957, we probably placed 50 to 60 of those old systems on maintenance. So this is not a unique situation as far as the state of our drainage infrastructure around the county. So I'm happy to answer any questions you guys have. I did bring some printouts depending on where the conversation goes. So.
And can you give us a Reader's Digest version of the process?
Sure. So any landowner, any single landowner can file a petition. Obviously, the more people that sign a petition, the better it looks. But all it takes is one valid signature to get the process started. The trustees are considered. You actually own property within the watershed, but you would also, or I guess you guys. Yeah. You would have right of way in this watershed. So you're considered a landowner by owning the land. You're also considered a landowner by virtue of your right of way. So once the petition is filed, the county commissioners will schedule a viewing and a first hearing for the project. The viewings are done by drone video, allows us to fly the entire length of a project and show that, whereas before drones, we would walk out and maybe see a couple 100 feet of a project. There's no testimony at a view. It's just merely a chance for the commissioners to get oriented to the possible project area. The first hearing, our office, along with the county engineer's office, jointly prepare a report that's going to have an overview of the existing conditions as we know them to be, a very basic cost estimate that is not based on any field survey or engineering work, and then a recommendation as far as whether we think the project is feasible or not, technically feasible. Commissioners, after hearing our report, will take testimony from any landowner within the watershed. So anybody that is an owner of property within the watershed is permitted to testify if they choose to. Commissioners are going to be looking to answer 3 questions at that point. Is a project necessary? Is it conducive to the public welfare, and do the benefits that potentially outweigh the costs? If they can answer yes to all 3 of those questions, then the state law directs them that they should proceed with a project. So I always liken a first hearing to kind of a grand jury hearing. They're deciding, is it likely or is it possible that the benefits are going to outweigh the costs? The commissioners recognize that they're not they don't have a lot of information in front of them at that time. So if they sense that there is support for a project, they are typically likely to allow that project to proceed to the engineering and design phase. So that would be, if they approve the project at the first hearing, that's what authorizes my office and Doug's office to kind of roll up our sleeves and go to work. We would prepare the engineering plans, specifications, a final hearing report, and then the schedule of assessments that would go along to be applied to the landowners to pay for the project if it gets approved. We return that back to the commissioners. These projects are marathons, not sprints. It's likely to take somewhere between 2 to 3 years to get from that first phase to the final phase, and that's just based on our workload. That all gets returned to the commissioners. The commissioners will notify each landowner in the watershed of what their proposed costs would be. They schedule a date for a final hearing. The process basically repeats itself. Again, landowners have the opportunity to testify, and if they approve the project at that final hearing, then we would go to competitive bid for construction. The final phase of a project and what to me is what makes these projects good and lasting is then they're required by law to go on the county's drainage maintenance program. So there would be an easement established over whatever is constructed, and then that project would be taken care of, kept in good working order for forever, basically. So, yes, Bob.
Back in 2019, it was a $500 bond. There's a $1,500.
$1,500, yes.
Correct, that whoever files the petition.
That is correct. That law changed in 2021, March 2021, went effective. The important thing on the bond is that bond is returned if the commissioners approve the project at the first hearing. So up until to the first hearing, the bond covers any costs incurred, and the majority of that is the commissioners are required to send certified letters to every property owner in the watershed. That runs anywhere between $5 and $9 a letter now. So obviously they need to cover their costs, and I think that was one of the reasons they increased the cost of that bond. There was a lot of counties that were doing projects with a lot of landowners in a watershed, and they were underwater on their costs because of the certified mailing increases. But after the first hearing, every cost incurred becomes a project cost, and then you would get your bond back.
We've had a problem for years and years. Would you expect, if this petition drive and it was corrected, that it would correct the water problem that we've had? I mean,
yeah. So I always caution when I'm talking about drainage petition projects. They're drainage projects. They're not flood control projects. So if it rains 3 inches tonight, then there's likely still the good possibility that you're going to have water in the park. What my projects do is, instead of having that water stand around for days or weeks on end, it gives it a good, you want to have a good surface grade, good A to B, water's up here, you want it to flow down here. We don't want any impediments to that in the way. I don't believe you've had that now. I've walked part of this watershed back in 2020. I don't believe that good surface grade exists. Then you've got your subsurface drain tile that's there to dry up the sponge after the rain has gone. I know for a fact that system is in disrepair. For further downstream, at least in 2020, there was a blowout on that tile that you could have lost a small pickup truck in. So obviously the tile's not functioning well. Your surface grade's not functioning well. One analogy that I always throw out to folks is, if it rains 2 to 3 inches tonight, and right now it's 3 weeks before you can mow your grass, and we come in and do a drainage project the way we design them, we cut that down to 2 to 3 days now that you can mow your grass. The project's working. It's a success. We can't control Mother Nature. When Mother Nature throws a heavy rain at us that is beyond what we design our project. Sure, we could design a project to handle that, but it's going to be so expensive that nobody's going to want to pay for it. So, but we have, I personally have been working in the county for 26 years, and the entirety of my career spent working on projects like this. I think we have an extremely good history of working with the engineer's office. We've put a lot of good projects in the ground, and they've worked the way that we designed them to.
Based on the previous plan, do you know how many properties or?
So I did bring some maps. I'll just give you guys everything. So this would be a watershed map. There. And that would be the list of property owners. That would just be within the watershed. This is just an overview of the process, and this is something we can touch on here in a second.
A lot more than I remember.
Yeah. I want to say when I looked at it before, just properties impacted by construction, obviously are going to be less, maybe 8 to 10 as you work your way downstream. And some of those are, you just need to get across the driveway, the flagpole of their driveway. But they are affected. So
The fact that this project impacts a public park, and I'm looking at the qualifications of necessity, public welfare, benefit outweighs costs, et cetera. Do you think that helps contribute to the ultimate success of this project being approved?
So it would be up to you as the trustees or, each individual landowner to speak to the benefits of the project. When we do our cost benefit analysis, we take a really high view, like the 30,000-foot view. We don't get down into the economics of each individual parcel. I can speak to whether a project as it exists now meets current engineering standards or whether it doesn't. This project clearly does not meet current engineering standards. So I'm going to treat necessity a little bit differently than you. You have a different view of it than I do. The engineer's office and my office do not take a pro or con position on these projects. We are a technical resource. We're here to make sure that the landowners in the watershed have all the information they need. The commissioners have all the information they need. And to bring forth a project that meets the request of the petition.
So the usage of the land really doesn't bear on that decision. It's more, or does it?
I think it certainly can be part of your testimony to the commissioners.
Okay.
We are not going to evaluate it differently for the work that I have to do, but it's certainly valid testimony. Just like any individual property owner's land use, and that can be, hey, I can't mow my grass, or my basement floods, or, there's a lot of things that present compelling testimony to the commissioners to answer those questions that I can't give them. And honestly, I'm not an interested party either. I don't live here. I don't own property in the watershed. I really maintain that neutrality. I strive hard to maintain that neutrality.
That's helpful because I'm understanding you're providing the technical expertise, but you're saying, hey, as concerned residents, as property owners, that is of great value as well in the commissioner's decision.
Yeah.
And that's really what I was looking for.
Yep.
Okay.
I have a saying that we developed a few years ago that I highly encourage everybody to go make their testimony to the county commissioners. This is a very publicly driven process. It is the commissioners want and need to hear testimony from the landowners in order to best make their best decision. And if you are in favor of a project, I say go testify. If you're against a project, I say go testify. And if you don't care one way or another, I still encourage people to go testify because it's critical. It's the only way this is a very good process. Obviously, I've worked with this process for a long time, but it only works the way it's intended to if the commissioners hear from the affected parties.
Thank you.
Two things. One is it's proportional, your cost is proportional to the amount of property in.
That is one factor. Yes. So we use three main factors when we determine the schedule of assessments for a project. The acres benefited, just the sheer amount of ground you have that drains into the watershed, and we only assess if it's a 20-acre parcel and only 5 acres are in the watershed, we're only assessing on that 5 acres. The land use of that property then is another factor, and then the percentage of a project that a parcel uses, just the sheer, you drain through 80 feet of 100 feet, you have 80% use.
Second question I've got is, does this back up next to the petition that was done, I guess, a year and a half ago?
One that's currently under construction.
Yeah.
The watersheds touch, but only at the peak of the roof. So the Crable project's draining to the north. This drainage goes mostly to the south.
Thank you.
Yep. And I'll give a tangent update. Crable construction's going along very nicely. Real happy with first time contractor for us. Real happy with the work they're doing so far. They've kind of gotten up into Center Village, and they're going to wait and let the tile work for a little bit now that we got the main tile opened up. Let that dry up before they go start mucking around in people's yards. And plus, they're also a pretty big farming operation, so I think they've kind of pulled off, go get their planning done, and then that'll give it time to dry out, and they'll be back to finish that up. So, the other last thing that I gave you there, the section of 6131, in Jason and I's conversations, I know there was some question, could the trustees get together with the downstream landowners potentially and do this outside of the petition process? That is a process. It's called written agreement for drainage improvement. I guess my overall recommendation would be that you do not undertake any project that does not end with that drainage becoming on drainage maintenance. If you were to, if let's just put it generically, if a group of landowners get together and construct a project, it doesn't go on drainage maintenance, maybe ownership changes, 20 years down the road, something goes wrong with that system, there's no way to go back in and fix it. So as the township, I would advise you, whatever you do, make sure at the end of the day that drainage that you've invested in is protected and puts Doug's office and my office in a position that we can go out and fix that for you if it becomes necessary. I would question, certainly I'm not going to try to substitute myself for your prosecuting attorney. I would certainly recommend having a discussion with, I don't know who your prosecutor is, but having a discussion with them about just what the township can and can't spend money on outside of the right of way. I know you can participate in the petition process because I've got experience. Your board, a different board, but Harlem Township has filed a petition in the past, so I know that can be done. I bring that section to you because I could see that being a way that the prosecutor's office would be comfortable with the township spending funds to do a project that written. Basically, you would get together with all those landowners downstream of you, come up with a plan. We could certainly assist you in putting a plan, an actual engineering plan down on paper, but you could divide the costs up any way you want. You just have written agreement to construct the project. And then the commissioners would have a hearing then for the maintenance portion of the project. But you could construct it. We've never actually worked through one of these, and I mean, mutual groups. I've had 2 of them in my 26-year career. They tend to break down when the checkbooks come out, so it's just a fact of life. But it is an option. I mean, it would be something you could explore if you wanted to and didn't want to try to go the full-blown petition route. Either way, we're here. Doug's here to assist you in whatever you would choose. So.
Any further questions?
No, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thanks very much.
Yep.
These
Absolutely.
are the key.
Yes. Yep.
Jason, any color to add to that? I know we talked about it at length last month.
The only comment I would make is I spoke with Vince one day. And not to quote him, but his direct words is, the township cannot spend public money on private property. You just can't. How that changes, some kind of agreement or whatever he just provided, I don't know anything about.
Well,
That's what I was advised, that we can't go on the private property and make improvement
Right.
on our behalf.
Yeah.
It has to be through.
and you're speaking to a challenge, would we pursue the written agreement
Right.
path, right?
Right.
We go the petition path, that hurdle doesn't exist.
Correct.
I guess that would probably be my only question based on what you've said, Brett, as now that I think about it, is there any benefit to going through that written agreement process?
Time would be, I think you could shorten up that 2 to 3 year time period. You would potentially, possibly get the project done cheaper, because you would be, you could, theoretically, you could select your own contractor, not have to go through the public bid, but that may change with the township being involved. There's a lot of moving parts that would be beyond just private citizens getting together and doing this. And then just if the township wanted to take on more of the cost, a higher percentage of the cost, you would have more ability to do that under that private group. That being said, if we went into the petition process and you as the trustees came to me and said, hey, we want to buy down the cost of a project by, I don't know, just use it by $20,000. You want to reduce everybody's assessment by that amount. We can do that. I mean, we've done it before in the past. I can't shield them from the maintenance cost, but we can work on that.
And those monies for the individual property owners are recouped via property tax?
Yes, special assessment on their property taxes. They would have two options to pay that. They can either pay it in full up front within 30 days of the final hearing on the project, or the commissioners would approve a repayment term that by the law can be anywhere from 2 to 15 years. They almost always choose 8. I don't know that there's any. It used to say 8 in the law, and when they went to up that to 15, I think they just keep doing 8. But it's also something that landowners can ask for at the final hearing. You can make that part of your testimony to say, hey, I don't know if I can handle these payments over 8 years, but I could do it over 15. If you do choose that route, then the commissioners are going to pass on whatever bond interest they incur. So,
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Brett.
welcome.
On that subject, I think when we discussed last month, we thought that probably from our point of view, the first logical step would be to reach out on our own to the affected landowners, let them know what our thought process was. I think, are we still in that place?
Yeah, I thought we were gonna send a letter we
Right.
talked about.
Right, yeah, I don't know if that was something that ever came to fruition.
Well, it was,
Talked about it.
Brett advised that we have this kind of conversation first and then start that next step.
Yeah, and I think that makes sense. I mean, as long as we're not in a big hurry. I mean, obviously we want to get it addressed, right? But it's not like it needs to be tomorrow. And I think understanding, from Brett's point of view, the two different paths that we can go on. I don't, from my point of view, I don't know that I see a benefit that would outweigh the costs that would come along with the written agreement. Course of action. I understand that would happen faster, but we've been dealing with this for
No, I
already.
think our cost is gonna be significant, and then we're gonna be using prevailing wage anyway. So
Sure. And I mean, not for nothing, but there's 95 properties listed. I mean, it's not that many property owners. I mean, I think 4 of those properties belong to us, but it's a sizable list, more than I would have thought, based on what the conversation last month, but I think it's sizable. So, one thing Brett did do for us, Lindsay, is we have a list of the addresses, right? So, in my opinion, I don't know if anybody feels differently, but I think that's still the next logical step is let's send a mailer to the folks on this list, let them know that we're going to talk about it. We should probably decide how we want to communicate that to them. Should that be part of the next meeting agenda? Should there be a separate conversation for that?
If it's the board's consensus that we're going to submit a ditch petition and we want to be transparent with the community, let's send out a letter and do that sooner rather than later. And if we want to put it on an agenda for a board meeting as an item of discussion, we can. I don't know what there is to discuss at that point. If it seems if we send a letter, this is the direction we're headed. If somebody if they want to come back and provide feedback, they could at the next board meeting.
Yeah, and I think, again, for me, it's just about the transparency and trying to let them know that we're looking at something before they get that letter from the commissioners.
Yep.
So,
So I don't know that it needs to be an item on the agenda.
Mhm.
It would be like, if during the next trustee meeting, we have public comments, if you'd like to come and provide those, great.
we would probably need to resolve to file the petition though. Lisa, do you feel differently about that? That would need to be I see Doug nodding over your shoulder.
Well, when you guys decide to vote on it, to view it,
Yeah.
start it, the process, yeah.
So there would be a resolution at the next meeting to file it.
To file the petition, but to your point, doesn't need to be
Yeah.
a note to just specifically discuss it, because I do believe we are aligned.
Yeah.
Lindsay, I saw you.
Yes, I just wanted to say that if, you're talking about what things we need to discuss, do we have these in a meeting? The only thing I could think of would be the cost of printing and mailing. That's my understanding that what's budgeted for printing and mailing is very similar to what was budgeted the previous year, which is what we spent the previous year on things that we're already spending printing and mailing on. So just maybe something to look up ahead of time and just ensure, in case you need to have discussion about saying yes or no to spending extra money.
I think we're already at a point where we're going to have to designate some more funds for printing and mailing before this year ends. So.
Lisa said no problem.
Good point.
No problem.
Okay.
That's fair though, Lindsay. Thank you. Okay, next on the list, public conversation. I think we have Molly. Are you with us virtually there?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, Molly, go ahead and introduce yourself for us, please.
Awesome. Hi, everybody. I am Molly Ridge. I am with Crossroads Community Planning. Some of you might have seen Holly Maddie giving reports at these trustees meetings, so we work together. And currently, I am working with the Parks Committee to develop a Parks and Recreation plan. For that plan, our biggest initiative so far has been the township-wide survey that was mailed out and posted throughout the township. And so I'd like to take a couple minutes to walk through just a very broad overview of the survey results and what we found, and then talk a little bit about what the committee has been up to in the past month. So I will go ahead and share my screen. Let me know if we're having trouble seeing it.
There are some back by the door also, if anybody wants them.
Yes, good note. Ashley, I believe, printed a handful of the write-up about the survey overview. That is a summary document, and so we will also make the actual survey results, every result, available to the township and the public as well. But just to start off, I just want to show you a few key items. So we had 344 survey responses, which is pretty great response rate. A majority of our respondents, it's about 63%, visit the township park at least once a month, while the respondents visit other parks, any other park outside the township, at a rate of about 36% go less than once a month. So most people are using the township park as their primary recreation option. For activities that respondents are doing when they go to the park, walking on the path is the dominant activity. And the overall preference for future recreation focuses on natural spaces, things like hiking and walking, versus more intense active recreation uses. But as we'll talk about in just a second, you'll see that there are some difference of opinion between the age groups. Specifically, we looked at 34 and under and 55 plus, but we have the data. We can look at all sorts of different age groups if we are interested in that. So just want to jump into some graphs here. So one of our questions was asking, what activities do you participate in when you visit other parks besides the Harlem Township Park? I have a couple starred things here of our top 3 responses. So the most common response was that people were going to other parks to walk and hike. That was about 67% of our responses. Following this, about 38% said they were going to relax and enjoy nature. And so those two are going hand in hand, and are 2 examples of a passive recreation opportunity. And then in third place, At 31%, respondents said they were going to visit other parks for exercise or fitness activities. And so that's where we're seeing a little bit more of an active recreation perspective here. This question asks about future recreation spaces within the township itself, and asked respondents to select up to 5 recreation categories that they would like to see in the township. And so the top 3 answers here directly correlate with the answers in the last graph. So 64% of people say they want to see more walking and hiking trails in the township. 36% say they want to see green space and passive natural areas. And so that aligns with the relaxing and enjoying nature category in the last graph. And so those are our 2 passive recreation opportunities. And then rounding it out, we have 39% of respondents saying that they would want to see ball courts such as tennis, pickleball, basketball, etc. Some people who responded other up here, it's only about 7% of people, but a couple of those people wrote in pickleball specifically. So there is a desire to see some level of active recreation. We start to see some interesting splits when we look at different age groups. Before we jump into this, something that is pretty important to note is that older residents engaged with the survey at much higher rate than younger residents. So for our under 35 group, that was only about 16 responses compared to the 55 plus group, which was like 150 or more. That is pretty typical, honestly. It's tends to be more difficult to engage younger audiences. So that'll definitely be something that we work on in this plan and moving forward. But I realize that these graphs are kind of small on your screens, but what I want to note more than the content is the shape and how we're seeing differences here. So both groups have walking on the path as the top option. For under 35. That is 75% indicating that they walk on the path when they visit the community park. For the 55 plus group, that's about 63%. But when we start to look at other categories, you'll notice some differences. So for the 35 and under group, 56% say that they use the playground or are taking children to the playground when they visit the Harlem Township Community Park. For the 55 plus group, that's only 21%. Also notably, exercise and fitness activities. About 50% of that younger group is using the park for that purpose, whereas only about 27% of the older age group is doing the same thing. Something else to note is that the older group is attending community events in a bigger way, but it's still pretty even. So about 41% for that 55 plus group and 38% for the under 35 group. This graph here is showing what types of future recreation space the respondent would like to see in the township. This is a breakout of one of the previous graphs, and this just shows the responses for the under 35 age group. So in this group, ball courts, again, tennis, pickleball, volleyball are the highest ranked item. Almost 70% of respondents in this category want to see that. And then playgrounds and walking and hiking were tied for second or third place at 44%. So this group is definitely more interested in a bit more of an active recreation opportunity than passive. But again, we do have about 44%, almost half, indicating that they do want to see some walking spaces as well. For the 55 plus group, this graph looks a little bit different. Walking and hiking is still dominating, but we see the second most popular option as green space and passive natural areas at 40%, and then picnic areas and pavilions in third place with 36%. So this group definitely is leaning more towards passive recreation options, more quiet, less built structures. And so that is a very brief overview of the survey results. Before I move into talking about the activities of the committee, are there any immediate questions about the survey?
I don't see any, Molly.
Okay, great. So this past month with the committee, we met to conduct a sonic analysis. It's very similar to a SWOT. And so this is strengths, opportunities, needs, improvements, and challenges. And so these identified items will be used to help the committee formulate goals and recommendations for the plan. And so that is what is going to be happening this upcoming month. But here, I just wanted to touch on some of the identified elements that the committee identified as strengths. I won't read through all of these, but some things that they noted are the central location of the park as a strength. All of the events that are held and how it's used as a gathering place makes the park strong. Features such as the playground are important, the safety, and the strong volunteer community. For opportunities, the changing demographics was noted. It's both an opportunity and a challenge. As we saw in the survey results, there is some level of a conflicting vision for what recreation spaces could look like in the township, but it's also an opportunity for the township to potentially provide both and provide a really interesting and unique diversity of opportunities. Connection of green spaces is an opportunity as the parks are built out through variety of means. Making sure that they're connected for bikers, walkers, and cars is very important. There's also an opportunity for more paths and walking, as that was the top option, and the opportunity for more community-focused events. For needs, a strong, unique vision was identified as a very important facet of this plan. Public support is also essential for any parks planning or development, as well as healthy relationships with surrounding communities to identify any possible partnerships. Improvements, drainage is the top one, which was what we just talked about. So that is being talked about at the Parks Committee as well. Improved accessibility, potential decoupling of the park space and the recycling bins as they kind of have competing environments. The dumpsters can be noisy if people are dumping bottles in there and you're going to the park to relax. So maybe an improvement would be the decoupling of the recycling from the park. Improved signage, and then electrical upgrades and upgrades to other facilities such as the bathrooms are identified improvement areas. And lastly, challenges. These include funding, resources, inclusion of multiple generations. As I talked about, engaging with the younger groups tends to be more difficult. And then balancing the immediate needs and the long-term vision. So making sure that we're planning for both of these things and aiming for a unity of effort versus disjointed park development. Looking forward to the next month, we are going to use this sonic activity as well as the survey results from the community to develop goals with the Parks Committee and recommendations from that. And then as we do that, explore different funding opportunities, potential partnerships, different park types, etc. And we'll also begin to plan a public meeting so that the public can provide further feedback on the plan. Any questions?
Board? I think it's important to note, Molly, that the long-term goal of this is so that the township has a strategic plan for our parks, so that as developers and planners come to the township, we're able to express in a proactive way what our priorities are, where we would like to see parks and what kind of parks we'd like to see, so that they buy into or become a part of our vision for this community, and that an external vision for what parks might look like is not imposed on the community. And that's why I think your work is so appreciated, and the work of the Parks Committee that's being done right now, that we are proactively laying down a vision that I call it Harlem Metro Parks, that someday there's a robust, connected park system in the township.
Absolutely.
Great. Thank you, Molly.
Right. Thank you all. Have a
Ed's
great evening.
here from
Yeah, so I'd sneak in. Ed, do you have anything to contribute from the parks point of view?
No, except, this is fun. Gosh, I have no prepared statement. You caught me.
That's okay. Bob did it to you, but I agree with you. This was fun.
No, I'm not. More person.
Thanks, Ed. All right, great. We'll keep it moving here then. Mr. Herman,
Thanks, Molly.
we have Chris Herman from MKSK here to discuss some of the next stages for planning.
So good evening. Thanks for inviting us. My name is Chris Herman. I'm a principal with MKSK, and Jeffrey Pungonis, principal with MKSK. We're here to talk, I think, at your direction and leisure. We had a conversation with Trustee Trainer about kind of next steps. You've got Crossroads, and you all have partnered and done this comprehensive plan, the strategic plan for where you're going next. And planning is really, unfortunately, it's never done. And the fact that you're doing the parks plan is a great example of this. I think Trustee Trainer put it very well, that you're trying to figure out what you all want so you can state that as other people come into the township or propose things in the township. The same is true with development. And so we wanted to share a little bit about our experiences, and then love to have a dialogue or answer questions and discuss with you. I threw some slides together. I think the key thing I want to maybe start out by saying is, well, first I should say who we are. We are with the firm MKSK. We were founded in 1990, based in Columbus, and we are an employee-owned firm. And we do planning, urban design, and landscape architecture. So we basically work with communities and do projects from plans all the way to actually getting things built. And so, yeah, I guess maybe flip. Thank you. I'll give you some directions. Yeah, if you want to go to maybe a couple, go past the maps. It's not working. Yeah. I guess I was like, yeah, we can come back to this. That's a map. That's the current draft of the future land use map kind of laid into the aerial. We can come back to talk about those. But then this is the strategic plan, which, talks about establishing a vibrant village center, about directing growth, aligning plans, the zoning, economic development. We noticed that you did site visits or had discussions about places like Jerome Village, West Clay, Evans Farms, New Albany. And part of this discussion is about, well, what happens next after you get through this planning effort? And if you could go to the next slide. I think what I want to start with is just say, we have been engaged as planners and designers for the village, now city of New Albany, since 1992. And I want to explain that relationship. So in the early 90s, development company, New Albany Company, was looking at doing development in Plain Township and expanding what then was the village of New Albany. And the village didn't feel like they were up to the speed at the professional level to sit across from all these engineers and architects from the East Coast coming in and proposing things. And they wanted somebody on their side of the table to respond and help them think about what they wanted. And so we were hired in 1992 and have basically been at their side in that capacity, sitting on their side of the table, helping them consider when development comes in, helping them plan ahead, talk about how things fit together, talk about how you do public improvements to leverage the things that you want. How do we review development plans and proposals? And as they've gotten more capacity, help them design all sorts of public improvements and economic development, actually. So I think we were originally meeting in the Plain Township log cabin that they had in 1992. That's where the village was meeting. And you can see what's happened in 34 years where they've come. But it was very intentional. And I'm not saying their intention is Harlem Township's intention. I'm just saying where they have gotten to today, aligned with at least a group of the community across time, and it's been kind of incremental in getting there, and planning has been an essential part of that all the way. And if you go to the next slide, if you don't mind. This is just we've used this with the city in the past. This shows at the top plans that they have done, and then below it, the implementation. So actual projects that have happened out of those plans. So they're very intentional about, all right, we want to get an answer to some question or set of questions, and then we want to then figure out how to implement that and take it to the next step. And it's this continual cycle and evolution across time. One of the things I wanted to talk about is on the next slide. This dates back all the way to 1996. That is a map of Plain Township. New Albany and the city of Columbus is in white. Plain Township is in all the colored areas, and it was a plan to talk about how that area could develop across time. And there's some goals, probably hard to see, but there's a tan brown color, and there's the idea of these kind of West Village, North Village, and East Village, and a South Village, and trying to protect and preserve agriculture and open space around this, creating kind of economic engine in that blue area. Again, this is 1996, and as the plans for 161 were continuing to advance. But I guess one of the points I want to talk about is this has evolved across time. This is what plans happen, right? The plans have changed even from here. But this was a multi-jurisdictional plan between the city of Columbus and New Albany, and then later Plain Township was added. So it was all three of those jurisdictions working together, coming up with a plan for the future. And part of that was to try to make it so development that happened in this area fit together and didn't look like there was a break, that Columbus was one thing, New Albany is another thing, Plain Township is a third thing. Obviously, each has their own identity. You can kind of tell, but I think it blurs better here than it maybe does in some other parts of Central Ohio. On the next slide, I know one of the things you're talking about is your Center Village area. In New Albany, it was Village Center. And they were talking about how to strengthen it, how to grow it. And so we, again, sitting on the side of the village and now city, work with them. And there's this kind of process, right? Working on plans with them, working with landowners, including the New Albany Company, trying to figure out where there's alignment, helping to direct public investment that unlocks private investment the way New Albany, the city, wanted to see that happen. Guiding that investment, and that includes reviewing it and going through the approval processes and providing guidance, corrections, revisions, those kinds of things. And then across time, market changes, that affects plans, priorities change across. I mean, it's been 30 years, priorities have changed, needs have changed. And so you continue to pivot with those things and work together, and take advantage of opportunities when they present themselves. So that's Village Center. We've been working on that as well. And Jeff can tell you lots of stories if you have questions about that. On the next slide, I did want to talk about something that's going on right now. One of those Village Center pieces that were on the Rocky Fork, the North Village, was on there, evolved across time into something called a hamlet. So in the city of New Albany's plans, they identified some hamlets. What that is, they want to distinguish that between the village center, something smaller than the village center, something that doesn't grow as big in a geography footprint as the village center, but has a center, is a place for people that live in that immediate neighborhood to walk to interact. One of the big complaints that happened in New Albany after 161 was finished was the people on the north side of 161 in New Albany felt very separate and less cared for than the people on the south side of New Albany, where the village center was. So this is something that just came up even in the last probably 2018, 2019, about how do we create something for the people that live on that side. And so that gave some momentum to this idea that had been there a long time about creating this hamlet. It was in the strategic plan on the future land use map. It was a dot. It didn't say it had to be right here. A developer came forward and said, I've put ground together about this area and want to do this hamlet. Proposed some plans, was not well received by the neighbors. Do you want to jump in? And so there was the city hired us to come in and say, all right, could you work with our staff, with the developer, you know, the community, and try to come up with a plan that kind of meets all these goals? Something that the council would approve, that the developer might actually consider building. And so this is a process where we went through this. Jeff led this effort, and came up with something that did make it through city council that now, it's
In construction.
and yeah, right.
Yeah.
So that was Yarmir Steiner who's leading that effort. But it's under construction. I think once it's built, it'll be a small but great example of what, you know, Evans Farm's trying to do in Delaware. It's on a smaller scale than that, more compact, but it's that kind of idea of mixing development. So on the next slide, I think there's some images that we did to try to help convey what this could look like. So again, this is all stuff produced by our office as part of this, but this detail of rendering doesn't happen until after following a lot of discussions and a lot of bubbles that then turn into blocks that then turn into actual development pieces. And then you want to show people, what are we talking about? What's the development look like? What's the materials? What's the feeling? So that led to these.
So just
Yeah,
a quick
absolutely.
interjection there. This is something that MKSK is creatively designing. This is your vision for the hamlet. Where does Steiner, as the developer, how do these things converge, these
Yeah.
ideas, so that you come to this?
Yeah, good question. So I'll just restate that a little bit. So Steiner, a developer comes to town with an idea, and the city has an opportunity to say, we hear you, but we'd like to steer our future a little bit. So the city was able to pause the development for a moment in time, and then our team with the city and lots of input from the public, from the developer, from different consultants, ecology, safety, so on and so forth, all come together. We build, sort of a working base of knowledge about what this site might be based on community needs. And we came up with a plan for scale, unit type, connectivity to public open space, so on and so forth. What this thing would look and feel like, how it would live, how residents would use it, how visitors would use it. That plan was adopted by City Council and was part of the agreement, or was a piece of data used in the agreement with the developer so they could move forward. So in this case, we played I wouldn't say a heavy hand, but we designed quite a bit to paint a picture for both the community and city council and the developer. The community has spoken. This is what they've asked for. So this wasn't necessarily MKSK's idea. This was a product of years of work out there, lots of public input, city council input, like I said, input from the developer, and that yielded this neighborhood idea.
So you were representing New Albany.
The city.
How do you balance the developer's profit motive in this kind of creativity?
Yeah, with input from them. So our goal isn't to solve every single one of their problems. Our goal is to put forward a vision for how streets connect, how residential homes and buildings address the street, how much of the stream to protect. So we're trying to check as many boxes as we can and be realistic and sensitive to the marketplace. And we work in the marketplace, so I think we know a little bit about it. We try to take some feedback from the developer. There's a little give and take. There's a little give and take with city council, a little give and take with the community. And those are the ingredients that we use to try to respond responsibly, meaning that we want to give something that developer can make a profit off of. They're not in the business of charity. They've bought this ground to do business. And so we want to balance doing business with the community needs. And that's sort of, the intersection. That's what the plan really tries to do. And, this is sort of a special case. You all know how the city of New Albany and the New Albany Company work together, but it's not completely different from how other development um, how other development evolves in other cities.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have other examples in here. We don't
Yeah,
need
sure.
to do it over and over.
Yeah.
But this is not that uncommon. It just depends how quickly you as a community intervene or are proactive, just like your comments about parks. You want folks coming to town to know we have goals and wishes and dreams, and we've established that. We've stated that for the record here for Parks and Rec. And similarly, you can do the same thing for development.
I don't mean to hijack you, Chris.
No,
No,
I could go on and on, but you get back to your presentation.
These are great questions. And one thing I would add too is you asked how do we, they had submitted a plan. So we kind of knew what they were from a market and development point of view, they're already thinking. So it was trying to work with that and talk to them and talk about, can we bend this? Can we change this? Can we get rid of that? Can we add this? So yeah, and at the highest level, I think we're saying you have a future land use map and it talks about land uses, and that's great. And that is absolutely, well, first steps, engaging the community. You've done that. Second steps, representing it on the ground. You're doing that. You've got uses that you're assigning to it. Kind of the next, lots of communities stop there. And then it's just the zoning corresponds to that, and developers come in and pitch ideas and the community responds. Some communities, New Albany's example, try to then add a next level of detail to those maps. And it's kind of a next effort, but like, okay, what kinds of character, what kind of development, what works, what are some, usually you want to have some alternatives and options. What are key street connections? If you're thinking about certain levels of development or density, how do you maybe create some new streets that don't connect to existing built residential streets? So you're getting the traffic, someplace new where everybody locating there knows that this is the street and they're not going on to an existing one. So kind of connecting those pieces where park space fit in. Are there amenities? Do you want to, in New Albany, they're very concerned for years, decades, that they didn't want to cannibalize the retail in the village center. So they really didn't allow retail in New Albany at very many places other than a little piece of 62 and a couple interchanges. Now, they have a little problem in the sense that Columbus is around them and was approving retail, and that had impacts. But it wasn't until more recently they said, okay, we feel good enough about what's happening in the village center. We'll allow some retail and some other places for the office users and industrial users. That's just one example of thinking about uses and development and where they go and how they fit. So anyway, I guess what I'm trying to say is there's kind of this step where you kind of hone down into bubbles out of those big maps and maybe roads and connections and parks. And then as things get more real, then you talk about, okay, well, that bubble could look more like this and have these components. So you can kind of drill down across time. You can leave it up to the landowners and developers, and that's fine. You can work with them and help guide them and have conversations, which I think it sounds like you're doing. You can really try to get out in front and say, this is kind of more what we're looking, how close can you get to this kind of thing? And those are discussions you can have. I had one other example I wanted to show, which is the next one, I think, after this. This is on the other side of the table, but it's a little bit of the same. This was a longtime resident in Mentor, Ohio. And the interstate got built right through the middle of their property. Mentor grew south all the way up to the edge of their property. They have a old growth woods. They have kind of an estate house, and they had horse farms, and subdivisions happen across the street on both sides. Cleveland Clinic bought a parcel across there. A new interchange was built, and they were like, okay, this is a completely different place than what we thought. We want to sell the land. We want to sell. We want to move to another place that's more like this. But at the same time, we live in Mentor. We feel a part of Mentor. We want to make this development be additive to the city, additive to the community, respond to needs. And so they actually hired us to come in and work with them on plans and work with the city and try to
create a plan that would make everybody happy. So in this case, we were actually working for the landowner, but we were having as many conversations with the city as we were having with the landowner, trying to come up with plans. And there's just some slides here to kind of show the evolution of this process. If you go to the next one, this shows kind of their site. Oh, that looks like that fell apart. Kind of thinking about land uses and thinking about public spaces, green space, natural features, thinking about how a road network could work and connect and not have negative impacts. How do you get local traffic in? How do you make this work in a way that people want to live? On the slide after this, you can see that we even got into, it's not saying it has to look like this, but we talked about architecture materials that we thought would fit in different areas. We talked about what these roads could look like. Again, this is kind of a recipe book to follow. It doesn't have to be exact, but it gives guidance to people that are interested in developing here. And then on the right, you can see a map where we started getting pretty specific. This goes back to, you think about it as a big block, and then we had 3 blocks, single family residential, a mixed use walkable in the middle, and the city insisted on having office kind of a gateway at the interchange because they have an interchange and wanted to leverage that. So the purple was office hotel. The red was kind of this walkable retail and townhouse. And then the gray was single family residential. So that was kind of, we focused in on the big bubbles, got it down into smaller bubbles, and then started laying out things. It doesn't have to get built exactly this way, but it was to think through these things.
Well, you've described development, but you've sort of slipped over one really important thing. All of that green area, nearly 150 acres, is a conservation area. And so regardless of whether this came from the landowner or the city, it's a great example of how to protect the assets that are most important. So like Chris mentioned, this is surprisingly an old growth forest in Ohio. We don't have a lot of those. So the landowner and the city work together with the Western Reserve Conservation District and traded that land off to them so that it would be kept as parkland in perpetuity. So, you know, the point isn't to get so wound up on, wow, this looks really dense or this doesn't feel like Harlem Township, but the process and the intentionality in you as a community memorializing what's really important to you, that's really the spirit, I think, of what we're trying to communicate here today. Is there may be some things in town that are really, really important, but some other things that we can let evolve naturally over time. Those things that are really, really important, you may want to memorialize in some type of plan, whether it's your commitment to open space or the kind of development you do or don't want. Those things can be memorialized in plans that help you when, you know, folks come knocking on your door.
So yeah, just one last slide, then we can answer any other questions. So these are renderings that we did to show what we were showing in the plan view, and that's the plan view. And this whole document got assembled, and it was actually submitted to the city as a plan unit development by the landowner for approval by the city.
Rezone.
So planning commission, and then the
survived a vote.
Yeah. So anyway, we can talk on and on, but wanted to talk about this again, just in conversations with Trustee Trainer, just talking about what happens next. We said we'd be happy to talk about kind of our experiences in other places and what we've done with New Albany, and answer questions.
So I'll start this a little bit here. So what I've been wrestling with conceptually is we've done a strategic plan. We know infrastructure is coming and developers are going to start working. And they're already working on plans.
Yeah.
They're already working on bubble plans.
Yeah.
Right? What is the relationship between the township and the developers in this process? And initially, I had this very idealistic vision that one could work hand in glove. But what I think that I personally have come to realize in talking with Jennifer Chrysler in New Albany is that the township cannot lose its regulatory role in this process. Then what we need representation. We need partners to come alongside us to represent us, to help us articulate our vision, to help us put that on paper, and then represent the township in conversations with developers, where and perhaps have conversations that this board can't have. For whatever reason, right? And so it's the recognition that planning entities can help the township craft and articulate that plan, and then can help represent us when we're engaging with developers, which is going to happen sooner rather than later. And that also includes not only these incredible aesthetics, but also there's a whole economic side to this that's crucial, that is included as well. And that's, I think, my impetus for having you here tonight is it's kind of tempting to take a breath after getting our strategic plan done. But the realization is there's a ton of work that we're already behind on, I think, frankly. And we have to actually catch up with the developers that are chomping at the bit and are going to be coming with plans. And my fear is to be reactive to that versus proactive. And that's why I think your being here is so important, and you articulating for us what are the best next steps for the township in regard to planning. That's
great.
Let's throw it out to you. What do you think are the next best steps?
I do think I'm going to answer your question, but one quick thought, the developers are going to do a great job on their piece and meeting what they need to get done and what they are interpreting what you all want that they can do within reason. I think that one of the things that distinguishes really thoughtful communities is that if you take all those puzzle pieces and just lay them on the table, each puzzle piece has got its own little picture, that's fine, but to really be successful, they need to fit together. And so having, someone that's looking at and saying, okay, here's the different pieces, here's your different needs from a fiscal point of view, here's your different needs from your strategic plan, your parks, your roadways, your development types, and how do we fit it together in a way and be thinking about what Harlem Township's character is that you want to have thread through that development and reflect your community. That needs to be expressed to landowners and developers. And it's much easier for them to incorporate that into their plans early than to have spent a lot of money developing all these plans and then be told you're really off base and we need to go back, 10 steps and then go forward again in this different direction. Can be done, but I think everyone's happier when there's a conversation along the way and guidance, and we're saying, all right, township wants this, and these are the ways, the key pieces we really need to see, and the landlord developer saying, okay, we can do these things. This may be an issue. All right, well, what's the resolution to that? Is there a way we can find a path forward and kind of meshing that together? And multiple places happening at the same time and thinking about how they link together. Leave anything out?
No, there's a lot there. I mean, the development market, they're relying on borrowed money and timelines, and they want to understand what the ball field looks like. They want to know what game they're playing. And if you have the ability to state the game you're playing, sorry, this is a silly path to run down, but if you have the ability to say, these are our goals and dreams, and these are our wishes, and alignment with this aligns with our strategic plan supported by the community and aligns with our whatever would follow our strategic plan generally aligns with the community, that can give a developer a sense of confidence that they can do business with you, and you the confidence that you can get what you're hoping for in terms of an outcome from development. Your goal is to look out for the community and a long runway. That's different than what a developer is going to look like. So you being able to state, this is an important economic corridor. This is a very important part of our parks network. This is very important over to our community because of history and heritage and culture. You all know that, they don't. And so to memorialize those things gives them an easier way to understand your community and gives you all the backup to have um, authentic conversations with them when they come to town with real estate propositions.
Would you think a relationship, a three-way, actually four, a planning group, a consultant, the township, and a developer, would those be components that should work together cooperatively?
Yeah, I think, and again, it's up to you and the community. But having some expertise, and I'm not, it could be us, it could be others, but some expertise, I think sitting on your side of the table, helping to translate what you're saying and working, not posing, but working with landowners and developers to say, all right, let's guide this together and find a direction and be thinking about the different pieces, not just that one piece.
When you say consultant, what role is that?
Holly, with,
Oh, yeah.
with,
Holly is the, as I understand it, the code person. She takes the visions of MKSK and says, this is how you put it into code. Correct?
Yeah.
And at some point that had to happen in the Hamlet, right?
Yeah, and yes, we did create a codified document as a part of the Hamlet outcome. Yes.
So part of this
Not
process.
zoning code, but yeah, I mean, the spirit of that, yes.
Okay.
It
So
was
part of this process is aligning code with vision, right?
Yeah.
And the reality is, code is, you can write code, it gets to be, it's still at the very end, it still has some blunt edges. And so, getting ahead and kind of saying, this is what we mean, this is what our intent is, and this is why we've got this code written this way, because we're trying to get to this point. That helps. Because when you're just talking about square footage, height, setbacks, there's relationships between all that actually matter, and arranged one way, look one way, and arranged another way can look better.
Zoning code is one of the tools in the toolbox.
Yeah.
It's not the only
Yes.
tool you need to create a complete township, let's say.
But I understand Holly's a crossroads like entity, their role in that. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think those are the players. The developer, well, I think it's the developer, it's the community, and whoever is working to plan for one of the other. And I think the spirit of what we're saying is for you all to get out ahead of the development community, to be able to communicate what your vision is for this place is the important part. As opposed to developer comes to the table, call the planners to come in and help. Now we're playing catch up.
So I see a developer, the community, a planning entity, but also an economic partner. Because
You
the
need to
the
understand.
developer is going to come with an economic plan, but we need to be able to have a neutral opinion of that.
That's right. Well, or even better, someone on your behalf charting your future.
Yes. And that's like a bricker.
Sure,
Right.
depending on the situation, sure.
But it's so that this board has an understanding of, hey, these are the players. Here's what we need to invest in. And this needs to happen sooner rather than later.
Right. Planned properly, you could create revenue streams for the township that last a long, long time based on how your community develops. Unplanned, you may lose out on some of those benefits, or even in the opposite, end up with too many roads, too many intersections, too many this, too much infrastructure. There's sort of a lot to it. So you're right. The financial part of it is economic planning, how to leverage certain roadway corridors, all that. That's a big part of it.
Do you work in concert with economic planners?
Yeah.
When you're doing thoroughfare plans?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. They can also do work out ahead of us. We can do work ahead of them. There's a lot of different ways it works, but you're right to think about that. You want to identify where your core commercial opportunities are, or in other words, where your community can make money that perpetuates.
Yeah. So generically speaking, I already know that developers would look at a certain area in our township and one would say, that should be residential. And another one would say, no, I think that can be commercial, light industrial. They have competing visions.
That's right. Or they're
So-
good at something.
Right. And so, well, the township should have an opinion about that.
Yeah.
And right now we don't. That has any basis in fact.
Right.
We may have an opinion that's up there in the ether somewhere.
Yeah.
But that we could actually say, well, this is going to generate this many dollars over this period of time. We can't do that right now, to be frank. Yeah. So
And I think just to sort of go back to some of the things we looked at, whether you want to stay and look a lot like you do today, or you have a vision of what you want to look like in the future, the same rules apply here.
Yeah.
Right. You have goals and values as a community that you hold very dear to your heart. And what Chris and I are saying is, regardless of whether they're humble or extremely aspirational and bold, you still want to memorialize those for your community so that you can live on in the future and not play catch up every time the phone rings, or 4 landowners aggregate some ground to, get out of their current holdings, because that will happen.
Yep.
Out of our strategic planning process, residents expressed an interest in seeing a vision for Center Village articulated. And I think we have a pressing need, as we understand the infrastructure coming in the southwest corner, to see some thinking invested in that southwest corner. Have you given any more thought to that conceptually?
I don't think so, other than kind of each is different. Your Center Village obviously will take, I think it's going to be something that takes time. It's going to be small pieces, right? And I think the key thing is you want to have a vision that's flexible for Center Village, that thinks about key first things you would like to see happen, and then think about how they fit. Because one of the issues is putting some key things in the wrong place can cause problems down the road if you weren't thinking about the other things you wanted to put together with it. Leveraging, I know you guys, for example, you went to Carmel.
Yeah.
Carmel, West
Clay.
Clay.
There was a lot of thought into kind of putting a center green and putting retail that frames it, and thinking about how the parking works with that, and still making it work and active. So thinking about park space, commercial development, retail, residential, how those things fit together, roadway connections. If you imagine, and again, I'm not saying this is what you're saying, but if your idea for Center Village is something like what Powell has, I mean, Powell's evolved across time, right? And they have constraints, and they basically have got a crossroads road system that they've been spending the last 20 years trying to dig out of, because all the traffic is on those 2 roads, and it's hard to create that special place when they got all that traffic. So they've been slowly trying to create connections and other things around it, but thinking about all that a little bit ahead of time, and thinking about, how big, what scale, what's it going to look like, those kind of things. I think that's the kind of stuff. If you have a developer that you think, or landowner you think is going to come forward soon, then it's probably even more pressing. If that's maybe a little further out, I think it's starting to have conversations about how, not just the strategic plan, but like physical conversations about, here's landowners, here's people that would like to be part of this, here's people that might sell at some point on their time frame, here's how these pieces are plugged together, here are key things that you want to see accomplished soon. Public investments in park space or trails or playgrounds, and maybe where do they go that help make this happen? Like, I think that's what I would think about for Center Village. For the stuff that's getting served now by sanitary sewer, that kind of stuff, I'm sure that's pressing, and there's plans going on right now. That is probably having focused conversations with what landowners and their representatives and developers want to accomplish, and then trying, I think, to translate your strategic plan and land use map into what they're doing, and trying to figure out a path forward that works for all parties, and thinking about things like the green space, connectivity across the township, trail connections across the township, road connections that would be important, that a development could help pay for and build that could become ultimately, more important road connections that de-emphasize local residential streets that are currently, township roadways. Thinking about those things, I think now is really important.
Is there any reason, we're currently engaged in negotiations with ACETA with Galena in the northwest, with Columbus and New Albany in the south. Is there any reason to wait for those negotiations to come to a completion before we begin this process?
That is a great question. I think the key on that would be just understanding the financial setups and what fiscally helps the township. And so as long as you understand that, but you may already understand that in the draft that you're at now, you may already understand how that's going to lay out. I think as long as you understand how the township is going to benefit fiscally and where different infrastructure dollars are going, you can start having those conversations. If you don't know those things, it's probably good to understand those a little bit.
I think we're right in the middle of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
But we don't know.
I think
Yeah.
we do.
We do?
I think we
Oh,
do. Yeah.
okay.
Because and the reason I say that is decisions that you make on land uses and intensity of land use may want to reflect what the fiscal windfall or not windfall
Leverage.
township is. Yeah. And then also understanding which jurisdictions going to help fund or finance different infrastructure pieces, understanding that and maybe relationships and timing of those things, that would all kind of go into that pot of thinking about how to guide this stuff.
Okay. One point I wanted to make for our residents, you've used New Albany as an illustration tonight, which I really appreciate. And it's been good for us to look at New Albany as a model of good planning. And for our residents to understand that's all we look to New Albany for. We don't want to reproduce New Albany. We think that we can reproduce a very unique community in Harlem Township. However, New Albany is a model of good planning. And actually what we get to learn from is the mistakes that they've made. And so while they've been doing it for over 30 years, they've learned a lot in that 30 years. And maybe we don't have to learn some of the hard lessons that they have because they're willing to share openly this communication with us. And so as opposed to being fearful of New Albany on the slides, I would just encourage us to understand that it's just a model.
Yes.
It's good planning and we want to plan well.
That's right.
So
That's a great point. We in no way are trying to say this is applying New Albany to Harlan Township.
No, future steps could be preservation oriented as opposed to development and growth oriented. It's just a mindset and a series of tools for you all to have. Chris and I, we don't represent developers. We have ideas about town planning and whatnot, but we aren't proposing a density or we don't want to change your community. Just here you're offering some of the tools that you all might have in your back pocket when things start changing and development pressure starts mounting.
what would you call the next layer of planning that we need to do?
It's a great question. I would call it planning, but yeah, to distinguish it. I wouldn't call it, I want to call it development planning, but that would seem more on the private side.
It seems like there's some corridor planning that could take place and some strategic area planning.
So area plans, I think
Yeah,
the right name.
I think-
Area planning, like focused area plans.
That's right.
I think that's the right name.
Focused area plans.
Southwest.
And that could occur, that could occur immediately.
Yes.
And this is something like what we see New Albany doing with the 62 corridor right now.
Perfect example.
And we can go up on their website and we can see what that looks like, what it looked like in their community, how they engage their community. And I think you guys played a role in this.
Yes, we led that project for New Albany. And speaking of, if you ask them, I think they would admit that they were late to planning that. They had it to do all over again. They would have gotten ahead of that at least 5 years sooner, if not more, because again, going back to some of the pieces already got built and now they have to you have to plan around and figure out and incorporate them rather than saying, oh, this is what the neighbors wanted and we should have been reflected in that sooner and faster. I did.
Good to know.
Anything else?
Good. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Chris, Jeff. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Shoot.
Arlene Gold said, should the township administrator also be able to represent us regarding financials and other planning needs? That was while you guys were talking about this.
Get the right one.
Yeah, like the team that you guys were putting together, they commented during that.
Yes.
I should
Yes.
have
The answer is yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
You have done this.
All right, I'll jump on to the first resolution this evening. I will make a motion for resolution 26-0421T-001, receipt of zoning application HTZC 26-01.
Second.
Motion and seconded. Let's do a roll call, please, Ashley.
Holiday.
Aye.
Trainer.
Aye. Aye.
There will be a hearing set for May 20th, 2026 at 7:15 PM. The application will be available online and here at the office. Moving on to the second item here, resolution 002. That's the consent agenda for this evening. We have April 2026 financials, reconcile appropriation status and ledger report, and the cash summary report. Do either of the trustees want to bring any of those out of the consent agenda for discussion?
Does this include fire, et cetera?
Yeah, I believe it
This is the whole-
includes the report.
This
It's
is
just
that's
not
the
mentioned.
next one, right? That's the
Yeah.
next one.
The
I'm good.
Well, and actually, I think we might have a couple things that are a little bit out of order on the agenda here, because the number 2, the warrants and vouchers, I think that's a separate resolution
Yeah.
to the resolution, to the consent agenda. And that's fine. We can get to that here in a minute, but yeah, so, and approval of the March 18th, 2026 regular minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Carries. And then we'll jump to 003. Lisa's not here, but I'll move to approve the presented bills and fiscal officer certified that the amounts were available in the respective accounts to pay said bills in the payment listing report, starting with warrant number 14-327 through warrant 14-343, voucher 68-2026 through voucher 73-2026, the amount of $83,447. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and seconded. Roll call, please, Ashley.
Holiday.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Anybody, Chief, Mike, you guys know if Lisa's still here? I know she stepped into her office for a
He
minute.
left at 7:30, she said.
That's
He was
right.
going.
Okay. So we'll bypass anything for,
May I just ask a couple questions about the reports
please.
real quickly?
Yes.
Lindsay, you got my bylaws. Did you see that? I sent you the bylaws from the parks. Okay, and does it make sense that you could take what you put in your consent agenda and insert it into those bylaws pretty easily?
I think that makes sense, but I have 2 follow-up questions. The first is that during the last trustee meeting, we got intention that we were going to have bylaws that kind of generic, that everybody could share, and then we needed some sort of charter to explain what our scope of work is and our purpose. Are we scratching that?
No, I think that the bylaws I sent you at the opening, you have the opportunity to present your purpose, which is your charter, but that the rest of those bylaws should be fairly generic. That you should be able to just replace parks with communications and it almost work.
I think so. When I read through it, I just.
Let's talk about it afterward. Okay.
And
Question was, can I redline them? Can I redline?
Absolutely.
That makes-
Absolutely.
And I do think that there would be things that need to be changed before.
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah, why don't you do that and then we'll talk.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Chief, I just had I noticed on your stats, there are a lot of times you guys get called out and then canceled. It was quite remarkable to me. And that's just typical.
Yeah.
And why does that occur?
You will get an alarm job. You'll get a fire alarm or you'll get a medical alarm. and the alarm office will start you. And then the homeowner will call back and say, everything's fine, we don't need you.
Okay. So, and that's the typical reason why it
That's
gets
typical
canceled.
reason. Or you'll start out on mutual aid too. Sometimes you go mutual aid with somebody and they'll get there and they will cancel everybody because, you know, if like, if you get a report of a house fire and it's in, let's say, New Albany, you know, we're gonna go, New Albany's gonna go, Columbus is gonna go. New Albany gets there, they gotta get the equipment rolling, then New Albany gets there, they don't need everybody, they cancel.
Okay.
So, unlike today when we went to Genoa and you could see it when we left the station, so.
Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah.
But that's very typical.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was just interesting to
Yes.
note that. It looks like that, Mike, you're making great progress on properties.
Yeah, actually,
Uh,
we're getting a few more nuisance properties started.
It looks like
And there's an additional one that wasn't on there.
it's headed the right way.
Yeah.
So that's really good. I just wanted to, sometimes you may wonder if we read these. We do, and just appreciate the work that's being done across the board. Lindsay?
Our communications report, we included a discussion topic of starting to update the township's branding. And we're
Yeah.
gonna plan to talk about that.
I think we're
tonight.
going to talk about that at some point. Yeah.
I need a clarification. Did we look at the communications charter? I mean, are we going to further discuss that or?
I think that, so I put it in our communications report that this is the charter that we came up with. I think that maybe then I should just redline the parks document that I was sent and put the charter and then kind of present a final document. Would that be best?
Because I had just a couple of quick things.
Sure.
Where it says email announcements, assisting in the timely and effective distribution of monthly. I just cross out monthly because you may do 2 or even 3 in a month.
Yes.
And the other one was newsletter, e-newsletter, planning, producing, or overseeing any township. I just take out any. Just township newsletters. Maybe that, I mean, thank you.
That's all. Thanks.
All right, Jason, I don't know if you've got any color to add to the next resolution here, 004, approval of the estimated cost for culvert replacements on Green Cut.
Just the 2 culverts that are directly affected by the OPWC grant work that's going to start later in the year. So that was provided by Delaware County to get them approved, to get them going before the OPWC starts.
And forgive me, Doug, almost forgot that you were here. No offense. But the conversation with MKSK got me kind of focused on that track. But as a timely manner, or since we're talking about it, anything to add to this or anything else from the engineer's office?
Just to update a little bit on Jason, we're ready to go and get both of the Greenwood culverts scheduled. Once the trustees approve the estimates, we will fit it in and get it done before the OPWC projects will start. So that's why I'm here tonight, to make sure we get it approved, and we'll let you know when we're gonna start, but we're getting ready.
Well, don't hold it against me that you got some extra seat time tonight. So yeah, the language of this resolution here, motion to approve cost of culvert replacement at 245 Green Cook Road, a cost of $15,736.09. Cost of culvert replacement at 501 Green Cook Road at a cost of $15,736.09. Total $31,472.18. Any discussion from the board?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call, please, Ashley.
Holiday.
Aye.
Trainer.
Aye.
Thank you. And thanks, Doug. We'll also have motion here, resolution 005, approval of service contract with Bob's Septic Service. I'll make the motion to approve the service contract with Bob's with a cost not to exceed $200. I would add language here to authorize me to sign that agreement with Bob's. Do I have a second?
Okay.
Moved and seconded. Roll call, please, Ashley.
Holiday.
Aye.
Singer. Trainer.
Aye.
It's okay.
There's no order.
006, approval to apply for engineer's assistance. Jason, anything further on this one?
This is to start the process of Delaware County Engineer's Office to basically evaluate our next grant request of refurbishing Green Cook Road from Woodtown to Center Village, which is directly, south of what they're going to do this year. The process of we start applying, and if we get lucky, maybe we'll get it next year, but if not, we're gonna apply next year. But it's just asking them to start the estimated process on what it would take for the grant and what it would need to be
And tell me again, which section of Green Cook?
between Woodtown and Center Village.
Okay, because,
This
yeah,
year they granted Woodtown to Trent,
right.
so it's basically going for that whole.
And that's the
whole
part that
stretch.
really needs the widening. I mean, the whole part of Green Cook really needs it.
Right.
Okay.
That's the big one we're going for next, and then speaking with Doug and Mr. Huffman on what would be later down the line from that, we can discuss later. That's basically allowing them to start the process for the grant.
So this would be resolution 006, move to approve the approval to apply for engineer's assistance through Delaware County Engineer for the 2026 OPWC grant for this section as listed of Green Cook Road.
Did you move it?
I did not.
I'll move it.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call, please, Ashley.
Holiday.
Aye.
Aye.
Great. Thank you. Okay, trustee business here. John, you want to kick it off? You got the bulk of it.
Yes, I'll just say that I did send Parks bylaws today to both Adam and Bob, Jason, and other members of the Parks Committee for your consideration. And that I would assume that next trustee meeting, then I would seek approval for those bylaws to be incorporated and for us to adopt them. And that gets an official date, we sign it, and the committee begins operating according to those bylaws from that point forward. I would assume then that that's when terms begin, et cetera, though we may want to, I think we'll want to align that more with the calendar year.
Sure. And you're speaking specifically to the Parks Committee, right?
I am.
Because we want to allow the time for.
Yeah, that's separate. They'll be completely separate. Yep. Secondly, New Albany, Columbus, Harlem, CETA update. We will meet for our second meeting on April the 30th of, that's this month. If you recall, last time I mentioned that it was somewhat a surprise to us that New Albany said they were planning to annex into the township 150 or so acres in the southeast corner. Since then, I have talked to the city of New Albany and NACO about that to just kind of get a better understanding of the whys. And NACO has a project of which that 150 acres is a small part of. And the city of New Albany can provide infrastructure. It makes sense. And in any CETA agreement, then we would make sure that the township benefits to the degree possible economically from that annexation into the township. In the big scheme of things, it's small. The disappointing thing, frankly, and I don't mind this being on the public record, was that going into that meeting, we had not been told about it. That was the painful piece. It's like, why am I learning about this publicly? So I hope that doesn't happen again. But there is open and ongoing conversation, and so looking forward to April 30th and taking the next step in this regard. I talked to Pete Griggs today about NCA, and his plan is to have verbiage for us by our next trustee meeting. That will include the potential makeup of a board, millage kind of numbers, and the rest of the verbiage that occurs in an NCA. I think he's working.
On what area are you looking at?
So Pete, there's an NCA that's going to occur in the northwest corner with Galena that will take up some area, and Adam can speak to that. But Pete says this NCA should encompass the rest of the township.
Okay. Need clarification.
It may be in the future that you have small projects that break into it, but his intent here is that it's all encompassing. And because the township is petitioning for the NCA, we are the developer, and so we can determine who those members are on the board.
Understood. No.
I did put down here discussion on trademark for branding because that was recommended to us that we seek a trademark, and that would be engaging a law firm, I think, to pursue that.
Yeah,
And I just wanted to get that on the table.
okay. Copyright is pretty easy.
Yeah,
Trademark is a lot more involved.
yeah. So we need to get a lawyer involved, I think. And
Lindsay,
is-
anybody on the communications team got experience in that from the marketing side?
I can ask the committee to see if anybody has any experience.
Because I do know it's mostly a legal conversation, but it just kind of overlaps that marketing world.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, not Darlene, just making sure. She's the first person that came to mind, but she's told me not her. I mean, for my own business, it was an online process that we got a trademark for the state of Ohio. It was online forms.
Yes, and
But this could perhaps be more
But-
complicated.
I wonder if that's something Angie could provide as a part of the package.
we can
well,
ask.
if she can do it. She said it would be an extra cost. Yeah, I'm
One
not.
less thing.
I'm
You're right,
just
yeah,
saying-
that makes sense.
Great idea.
Yeah,
It's
just
a great idea.
one less
Can
contract.
I reach out to her?
Sure.
And just, okay, let me do that. I also have discussion on signage for Harlem. And I kind of envisioned that as people are driving into the township, there's a sign, Welcome to Harlem Township with our logo on it. That we start to identify ourselves and that this goes away and all that good stuff. How do you folks see that unfolding?
Would you like me to stand and talk about the information that I presented to you
Sure.
in the communications report?
Sure.
Okay. So at our recent communications committee meeting, which was last week, we put together kind of what we thought could be a timeline for how you could start intentionally rolling out the brand in a way that seems like there's a plan and it's not just showing up in places that people aren't expecting, and also that it's coming from the trustees specifically. I think that's important. Our original thought were that you could start using things like this meeting and the meet and greet, which is tomorrow, but ultimately that's just too fast. We need to be thinking a little bit farther ahead.
No ball cap then.
Yes, exactly. So, you have a trustee meeting on May 20th, and that could be your opportunity to start officially kind of proclaiming that this is our brand. And that could be your opportunity for the first something. You could do something visual during then, which could be either passing out merchandise or just getting this updated above you. That could be kind of like your first official proclamation. And then we would recommend that before that, two important things happen. One is that, and our committee can write this up, we can write a news item for the website that's letting people know this is coming soon. And then two, that you revise the website company immediately on if it's time to start rebranding the website entirely, because they're supposed to be doing that this year. And it's my experience that's very likely going to be a lengthy process. So you want to get the ball rolling on that immediately, because what you don't want is that website to be so far behind everything else people are seeing. You want to start having things go in tandem. So our recommendation would be to start with your May 20th trustee meeting, get something on the website that's coming soon before, and revise before, and do something visual at that meeting. So I know that you really want to get that updated above your head. I think that's a great example. We like the idea of merchandise, things that can get people to start to be excited about this process, because also following your May 20th trustee meeting, you have things like the weekly farmers markets that are coming. There is a chicken noodle dinner on May 1st. I think that might still be a little bit too early of a timeline, but you can look toward the farmers markets that are happening all summer, start to get people involved by passing out merchandise, and slowly start updating your signage throughout the summer while the website is being updated. In the kind of timeline that we had sent you, there's there's milestones, like we can hit our monthly email blasts in there, saying, have you seen this new logo? It was introduced at the trustee meeting. We can, our printed May newsletter would be an excellent way to kind of bless it and roll it out to the community. So these are all things that are happening in May, and that's why we're recommending that this starts in May. We did include a list of things that you should consider updating. We thought it was pretty comprehensive. From our vantage point, things that we can take care of would be updating the social media accounts and the newsletter template, the email template. And then we have, I think it's pretty comprehensive list in here, from road signage, administrative building signage, parks, cemeteries, PowerPoint presentations, vehicles, any signage in this office, merchandise, Grange Hall, letterhead, all of your online forms. And then we ended it with, we got to get this website process going ASAP. So what questions do you have for us?
How does this all get paid for?
We don't have a budget, so that's not, I'm not sure.
Well, I know that Angie had talked about she would provide things like a PowerPoint deck, stuff like that. So she'll probably give us digital templates for some of these things. But as far as producing the hard copies, I think that falls to some sort of SG&A ledger line of, where we're paying for office materials and things like that. Now, I mean, I don't know about the things like signage or putting a new magnet on the zoning vehicle, stuff like that. I mean,
Right.
that'll be a conversation at least.
Check with our
This is gonna be
fiscal officer.
Yeah.
I think like that and the magnet on the car and stuff, I don't think will be a lot, but like printing something like that, and like if you guys want like shirts and things like that, I think those are really gonna be your only cost, because everything else is pretty much paid for by having the cryo.
I would be a proponent of having a conversation about this being something other than a big vinyl sticker on the wall. But should also say, I believe I learned from conversation in a neighboring township that they got an opinion from the prosecutor's office that the township can't sell branded merchandise.
Yeah, you want to
So-
be selling it.
Just, I mean, an interesting thing to throw into the conversation, but, yeah, I mean, I think there's still lots of discussion to be had, but when it comes to the digital side, other than the website,
Correct.
we could snap our fingers and get it done.
I think what I'd like to just reinforce here tonight is that we want to work in concert with things. So there's a newsletter coming out at the end of May, which is why we're thinking we should start in May, because you don't want the newsletter to come out and then miss it till the next quarter. Like, so we should just kind of start working together and getting things updated that are big visual focal points that we can point to, that, hey, we're rolling this out and it's coming from you all.
I have put big vinyl stickers on things in the military, like in buildings and stuff. And it's $200 or $300. You can get a really nice sticker and you just send them the graphic.
Correct.
But I don't disagree with Adam that it would be nice to have a wooden something.
That's going to be
Or
costly.
metal that's permanent. It conveys a little more worth than a sticker on a wall. So I agree. It's who's going to take ownership of that.
I'd put it out there right now of some craftsman in Harlem Township that has a laser cutting machine that would love to craft something like this, and we could honor them with the very first made in Harlem stamp on the Harlem.
Careful.
Lily Greenwell.
Made
Lily
in
Greenwell.
Harlem. You gotta be
No,
careful.
that's true. So
Liability.
I think that's, I mean, we can certainly research stuff like that kind of thing, but
Okay.
We may temporarily
Put the sticker
have
on
to
the
do
wall.
something, put it in the budget,
Correct.
and then for next year,
temporary.
roll a bunch of it out.
Yes, I agree. I have a lot of experience with signage and putting some sort of, I know we're using the words decal and sticker. It's not going to look as bad as those words make it seem.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah.
It actually looks really nice.
It would look nice, and they would literally only be a couple $100.
Yeah, that's
So, what other questions can I answer? Do we feel like we agree that this is something we should start moving on in May? Because I'm asking you because that I think would affect the May newsletter. If we're not ready to do this, then we're going to remove that from the newsletter entirely.
You're asking us to put something together. And
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're committed to that.
Okay, great.
Thank you and the committee.
Yes,
mm-hmm.
thank you.
Thanks, Leslie.
My next bullet point is township administrator discussion, and I thought it would be fair to update the community on where we are in that process. At the beginning of this month, we did put an advertisement up on the Ohio Township Association webpage with the job description. And since then, we have been receiving resume packets.
8 to be specific.
8. Okay. So that's where we are. And these are open until the end of the month. And then at the end of the month, the trustees will begin a process as yet to be defined, I think, on how we're going to approach this hiring.
Yep.
Anything
I
else?
concur.
Okay.
No, I think in transparency, I think that's part of the executive session conversation tonight to
Yeah.
understand what our.
We're going to
process-
talk about it tonight. What does this process look like?
Anything else, John?
No, sir.
Bob?
Okay. Met with one of the commissioners. I've spoken with Tiffany Mag and Julie McGill regarding sewer. At this point, the only significant work that's been done is the preliminary engineering contract. The final engineering review is going to be necessary and approved by the commissioners. Once the final engineering contract's approved, maybe a number of months before construction would then begin. Once construction begins, it will take probably up to a year for the completion of the first phase, which again is at the Jaeger property. The commissioners at this point have not approved the funds for the construction, and their view is that they have to see a return on their investment, because the only people that pay for sewer are the ones that use it. No one in our township is paying for sewer in taxes or otherwise. And they feel an obligation to the people that are using it. They do not want to significantly increase their costs without a return. The mobile home park is dependent in terms of their getting sewer on Russ Miller having a development, because apparently the sewer flows south, and that's where the connection needs to be done. There would be a major expense taking the sewer along Fancher Road because of the hill by the cemetery. So they are at this point not considering that avenue. So okay, that's what I have on the sewer update.
You have home rule.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Home rule regarding police protection is actually starting to move along a little bit. I have spoken to our assistant prosecutor again. I've spoken to Sheriff Balzer. I've spoken to some high administrative people that have some knowledge of the contract situation. And the sticking point basically is that the state of Ohio requires a township to negotiate a contract with the sheriff's department. That contract has to show why that there is more of a value to the township and what the cost for that value is. That is the sticking point, because if we just sign something, well, there's no additional value, that township gets.
Bob, is that identified in an area of the ORC or is that an opinion that you've received?
Nobody, and I'm going to ask the board to engage with Peter Griggs because as stated previously, the prosecutor's office has recused themselves. And that is a good thing because if we come up with an agreement, then based on the prosecutor's office having recused themselves, they are in a difficult position to say that the agreement is invalid or the contracts.
Yeah, the only issue I take with the whole cost benefit analysis point of view when it comes to police protection is because the ORC defines our fiduciary obligation under home rule as to provide police protection. Incredibly vague. Just says provide police protection. It is the board and then subsequently the citizens of Harlem Township's obligation to determine whether or not that negotiated contract for police protection is in the best interests financially of the township. That's the whole reason that it goes through a vote and then to the ballot. So I would argue the validity of the opinion that the prosecutor or attorney or any other legal counsel involved has to know what that agreement is ahead of time to determine whether or not it makes sense for us to do it. That is our sovereign right as voters of the township to make that determination. It's also identified as such in the ORC.
The ORC states you must have a contract.
Correct.
And what apparently, all right, this is what is being shared.
Sure.
Is that contract has to represent a value.
And
the value has to be greater. I mean, I don't know whether we can say $10 for $10.
It could say nothing. And so this relates to conversations that you and I have had, prior to last year, of where it becomes a sticking point is that the ORC defines that we have to provide police protection, and then the lawyers get involved, and they would argue that if that police protection is shared with other municipalities, then it's not provided specifically for us. So the sheriff's department's precincts, which covers Harlem Township in addition to areas outside Harlem Township, in the opinion of a legal counsel, could be inferred as it doesn't meet the ORC requirement, right? But to that point, our obligation is to provide it, be it chartering our own police or contracting with outside services. Doesn't have to be the sheriff, could be Blendon, could be New Albany, could be anybody we want.
Correct.
Just depends on how much we want to spend on it, because our responsibility is to present that information to the township citizens and say, here's what we've figured out. Let's go to the ballot box and vote on it. So again, I don't know that you and I need to argue it, because ultimately, in many cases, it's been proven that our opinion doesn't necessarily matter on this when we get into the legal conversations. But I take issue with that one. And I do think you're right. Going and pursuing more with Griggs and Johnson Griggs, I get the names out sure. But
Johnson and
Pete's firm, I think, is the correct path.
Yeah, we have to at this point.
So I'm happy to get Pete in here, and we should. I wish he was here tonight. I think that the strategic goal of getting to home rule by November is way more important than this minutia. Let's figure this out. If we need to make a deal with the sheriff, which early on he was ready to do.
The sheriff is not the sticking point.
Right.
Well, whoever's the sticking
The prosecutor's office, and the prosecutor's office has given us an avenue to potentially.
Then we need to hustle down that avenue.
I have asked Pete what it would look like if his firm would satiate the need for a legal counsel under limited home rule. So, and that is something that they have done in the past with other townships in Franklin.
Great.
And
That'd be great.
And now there is obviously a cost that's associated with it. So I've asked him, hey, can you give us an idea of what that might look like should we move in that direction? Now, we don't have to wait on that information to try to figure this out because Pete was at the table at the beginning of the conversation with Balzer and trying to figure out how we make that work. So, if prosecutor's office has recused themselves, I'd say we allow that recusal and continue to move the ball
Yeah.
forward as best we can.
the going cost for, if we were to hire a deputy is 180, depending on our interpretation or our information, is $182,000. Sheriff Balzer had 183,000. So I think that's pretty accurate. I do not want our township spending $182,000.
Here's the thing, and that money is a drop in the bucket compared to the decisions that the township can make on it when it's operating autonomously in home rule status.
For instance,
for instance, if we have our own engineer and he is making decisions about thoroughfare plans as opposed to Delaware County that have implications financially for the township. In the big scheme of things, those kinds of decisions will be small potatoes to paying for that. But can't we negotiate a contractual arrangement that doesn't cost that kind of money?
yeah, that's the whole purpose of discussion.
Yeah, so let's not get caught up in what it might cost at this point.
Well, I'm saying we can do that if that's the way. It's no different than the engineering. You have to, even if we get our own engineer, and I doubt the engineers department's gonna be concerned, but we have to get their approval to use an engineering firm. Now, they're not going to have a problem.
That's true.
It
We
is
have the
true.
ability to.
Not under limited home rule.
Yes, it is.
We can debate that in another time if we need to, but
Yeah.
the ORC outlines that we have the ability to do it. It would have to go to 3 general regions.
After
but
this meeting, I will show it to you.
I'm confident that you will. But I think the point is I would love to see how the conversation changes once Pete gets back involved with it, because when we first started talking about it,
Yeah.
Balzer was fine. The only place where it got confusing was when there was a debate. You're absolutely correct.
Yeah, there's no question that's where.
Sure.
So
we'll get Pete back.
Let's get clarity and let's get moving. It's kind of where
I don't disagree.
Yeah.
For that.
Yeah.
We're aligned. All 3 in a line. Okay. Anything else?
All right. The meet and greet is tomorrow evening at 5:30. I'm sorry, 5 to 8, 5.
You were going to be 30 minutes late.
Also. Yeah, no, I had it down.
I don't know.
What we've got to decide is we've got 13 people that were signed up, or
15 total.
15, and then I talked to a couple of neighbors, said they're going 17, but question is how much food, how many pizzas do we order? Ashley, do you have a credit card? Do you?
I do.
You do? Okay. And just have somebody that's able to pick them up at, maybe 5:30 or 6 to get.
You could even wait to see what your initial showing is, order them and have them delivered.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Do they do delivery?
They do delivery after 4 o'clock.
How about that?
Okay.
Local.
So great. I did send out a basic guideline. Is everyone okay with the guideline that I sent out to you?
Yep.
Basically, we're not gonna have speeches. Just gonna have a brief introduction by Adam, and then ask questions or have questions asked from the public, and then mingle and have people one-on-one talking to us. So. Okay.
Thanks, Bob. Okay, resolution 007, approval to contract Hollis Mowing for cemetery work. This would be approval to contract with Hollis Mowing to weed whip. Is that a technical term?
Yeah,
Just checking. Fancher and Maple Grove cemeteries at a fee of $550 per mow, not to exceed $10,000 for the season. Any conversation on that, Jason?
it's just, I had a slight conversation with John about it. It's, being it was the one concern we had last year, it's just a cost-effective move that he can actually do it cheaper than we can do it just in labor. Before we actually get equipment, material, the vehicles up there. And he can actually get it done. He's already got it, already been through there once actually, and it looks really good. It'll help us out greatly.
It looks really good.
It's just for those two cemeteries?
Yeah, just the big ones.
Okay. You want to make a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call, please, Ashley.
Holiday.
Aye.
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 And then this, we got 007 repeated here, but I think this will be 008, correct? Approval to authorize gravestone transformations for gravestone restoration work. This is to approve authorizing gravestone transformations to complete the restoration of headstones that have been identified. Authorizing Jason Andrusich to be authorized person for contract signature with a cost for work not to exceed 10,000. Anything on this one, Jason?
Their estimate actually came in at 8,725, but there could be some movement if we add a couple other stones. But this is the group that Dan's been working hand in hand with on getting a lot of our really bad stones, safety concerns repaired, brought to life, that we have found no contact with Ken, and just kind of do some good improvements.
These aren't the veteran.
No,
Okay.
these are not better.
Okay.
Great.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call, please, Ashley.
Holiday.
Aye.
Aye.
No.
Motion carries. Okay, administration. Ashley, got anything for us?
Nope.
Easy peasy.
I'm trying to see if there's anything that would be as accurate so far that's a no. So I figured I will give it one more shot at finding something as accurate as Sims to our cemeteries themselves. But so far, nothing, but I want to give it enough time, so I'll probably bring it back next month.
Okay, thanks. Anything from public comment? Yes, ma'am.
Journey Manson, 13269 Beagleheimer. First of all, I missed last month's meeting, but I did see the YouTube video, and it was the first I'd heard also about the New Albany's annexation. And I just want to express my extreme disappointment after dozens of meetings with the public where we told them we were creating all these overlays so that we would not have annexation, and some of the public very reluctantly agreeing to not protest against overlays. Now we find out that New Albany wants to annex. And I understand it's a small area, but I will tell you from what I have seen historically and what people in Licking County have told me, that New Albany doesn't settle for a small bite. They gobble things up as soon as they can. So I would not see this 150 acres or so as the last we're going to hear of New Albany annexation. That's the first thing. Really disappointed in that. Second thing is that I would request that the Board of Trustees consider creating a moratorium on AI data centers until the Ohio State study is finished. They're conducting that now, and it should be done later this year. We are currently working on new language in the zoning code for data centers, but this would give us a little more breathing room to get those in place. There are quite a number of other Ohio entities, municipalities, and townships who are doing this, and they're for varying lengths of time. Some are 90 days, some are a year. You know, it apparently is kind of up to the entity itself how long they want the moratorium to go. But I would suggest that we put that in place at least until we can see what the state study says. And the third thing is, and Lindsay already mentioned it, May 1st, there is a noodle dinner at the Grange, 4 to 7. Please come out and join us. And May 2nd, Dave can give you some more information on it. There is a kids bike rally at the park. You got little kids who like to ride bikes. Bring them out. There will be some prizes. There will be food. And it should be a fun time. But Dave can give you more information. Thank you.
Yeah, I share your disappointment, Joni, about the annexation. The CETA agreement that ultimately is signed with New Albany and Columbus will still include an annexation agreement that I think will prohibit future annexation beyond that. Seriously.
It's enforceable.
It's enforceable for at least 25 years, if not more. But it's disappointing. Absolutely. Mike?
Just a quick announcement. Saturday, we're having the cleanup day, and it's been announced. It was in the last newsletter that Lindsay distributed. We're setting up at the Grange for people to stop by and pick up their trash bags and gloves and a grabber to pick the trash up along the ditches. Jason has tried to do likewise in terms of they've been. It's amazing. I think we're in much better shape in terms of looking at the litter along our roads than we used to be. And I attribute that to the work that the maintenance department does on a regular basis. But we're trying to encourage as many people, obviously, as we can to come out for that. It starts at 9 to pick up the material, and then there will be lunch served at 11:30 to 12:30 for the people who are participating.
Great. Thanks, Mike. Any further comment?
On that note, we will pick up the bags on Monday. We have a discounted rate with Rumpke with Delaware County who disposed of that bag. Or this county went clean up.
Great. Awesome. Along those lines, do we know anything about the recycling interest?
We still need about 40 people. It was actually something I was gonna email about. I have a lot of people that have signed up calling, asking like, where are we? What's going on? Especially with discussions that the Parks Committee had about possibly getting rid of the other trash cans. I think it's something that might need to be discussed publicly. That way people are more apt to do it. But we still need about 40. So I didn't know if you guys wanted me to call Rumpke and say, hey, we have 160. I know we're supposed to have 200. Can we squeeze in on that? But I figured I'd let you guys make that decision. I'll make the call. I don't mind. But I do think it's something that it's really slowed down. I don't see us getting another 40 people calling in at this point.
Any potential to make that like front page on the newsletter? Like on that top fold?
Yeah. But yeah, as long as we're under the assumption that the deadline is passed, but if Rumpke says, no, that's fine, you can keep collecting names, we'll continue to promote it.
I'm hoping that they will. That's kind of what I'm like, let us just try, and once we're there, we're there. It's kind of what I think both of us were thinking.
Just 40 needed.
Just 40 people.
Yeah.
I'd also like to comment that I saw Rumpke and Keller Pines picking up recyclables. 2 houses.
I wonder if the HOA may contact.
I mean, if they're servicing them.
Yeah. Okay, any further comment? All right, we have a couple of needs for executive session tonight. Who would like to make the motion?
I can do it.
Go for it.
I move we go into executive session at 8:55 to consider the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of a public employee or official, or the investigation of charges or complaints against a public employee, official, licensee, or regulated individual, unless the employee, official, licensee, or regulated individual requests a public hearing by Division G1 of Section 121.22 of the Revised Code, and 2, consider confidential information related to the marketing plan's specific business strategy, production techniques, trade secrets, or personal financial statements of an applicant for economic development assistance or to negotiations with other political subdivisions respecting requests for economic development assistance.
Anyone you'd like to invite? Chief,
Second it,
No.
whatever it
well,
means.
we won't bring Chief in the first. It's on there,
So he comes into the first and
correct.
yes, but not in the second.
All right, moved and seconded. Roll call, please, Ashley.
Holiday.
Aye.
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 All right, we are in executive session.
All right, go ahead.
I make a motion, we leave executive session and move into regular session, back into regular session.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call, please, Ashley.
Holiday.
Aye.
Trainer.
Aye.
Singer.
Aye.
Okay, one resolution to add as a result of the executive session. I think this is going to be 009, correct, Ashley? This is approval to hire part-time Assistant Chief David Blair. I would make the motion to approve the hiring of part-time Assistant Chief David Blair at a rate of $36.77 an hour, 24 hours per week, effective date May 5th, 2026.
And receiving no benefits.
Correct.
Second that.
Moved and seconded. Let's do a roll call, Ashley.
Holiday.
Aye.
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 I move we adjourn.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned.